Catherine had just moved into her new home, a small, cozy house in a quiet neighborhood. It was perfect for her. She had found it after her breakup and felt like it was a fresh start. It was an older home, but that only added to its charm, or so she thought. Everything was going smoothly for the first few weeks. She unpacked, got settled, and even started to enjoy the quiet evenings reading by the fireplace. But soon, things started to feel off. It began with the small stuff. Doors she knew she had closed were slightly ajar when she came back into the room. Objects weren't exactly where she had left them, but it was subtle enough that she shrugged it off. Maybe I'm just tired, she thought. One night, as she sat in the living room reading, she heard soft, creaking sounds coming from above her, directly from the attic. The house was old, so noises were to be expected, but these footsteps sounded too deliberate, like someone was pacing. Still, Catherine convinced herself it was just the house settling. Days passed, and the sounds persisted. Light footsteps, sometimes scratching noises. Then, one evening, she returned home from work to find the attic door slightly ajar. Catherine froze. She hadn't touched that door since moving in. Summoning her courage, she grabbed a flashlight and decided to investigate. Climbing the creaky attic stairs, her heart pounded in her chest. When she reached the top, her flashlight cut through the darkness. At first, nothing seemed out of the ordinary, just dusty old boxes and forgotten furniture. But then, in the far corner, she saw it. A makeshift bed, a dirty mattress, crumpled blankets, and empty food containers. Someone had been living in her attic. Her hands shook as she backed away, trying to remain calm. She rushed down the stairs, locked herself in her bedroom, and immediately called the police. The police arrived quickly and searched the attic thoroughly. Whoever had been living there was long gone. They found fingerprints, which led them to a chilling discovery. The man who had been living in her attic was a drifter, a man who had been stalking women in the area for months. He had likely been watching Catherine since the day she moved in, waiting for the right moment to strike. The thought of someone living above her, watching her every move, haunted Catherine. She packed her belongings and never returned to that house. She learned the hard way that sometimes the scariest things aren't ghosts or monsters. They're the people who hide in the places we least expect. If you're new here and love hearing spine-chilling stories like this, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment your thoughts. We appreciate every one of you, and sharing helps spread the fright. Mark had been a long-haul truck driver for over 10 years. He was used to the long hours, the late nights, and the isolation that came with the job. But one particular night on a lonely stretch of highway made him question everything he thought he knew. It was a cold autumn evening, and Mark had been driving for hours through a remote part of the countryside. There were no towns, no streetlights, just miles of empty road winding through dense forests. The darkness was suffocating, with only the occasional flicker of moonlight breaking through the thick canopy of trees. As the hours dragged on, Mark's eyes grew heavy, and he considered pulling over at the next rest stop. But then, up ahead in his headlights, he saw something strange. Standing on the side of the road was a woman. She was barefoot, wearing a tattered white dress, and her long, dark hair was matted against her face. She didn't move. She didn't wave for help. She just stood there, staring out into the darkness. Mark slowed down, unsure of what to do. Something about her seemed off. Why was she out here in the middle of nowhere? And more importantly, was she okay? Against his better judgment, Mark pulled over a few feet away from her and rolled down his window. "Hey, do you need help?" he called out. But the woman didn't respond. She turned slowly to face him, her pale face illuminated by his headlights. Her eyes, blank and expressionless, sent a chill down his spine. She began walking toward his truck, her movements slow, almost mechanical. Mark's heart raced. The closer she got, the more he realized something wasn't right. She wasn't asking for help. She wasn't scared or lost. She was watching him. Her cold eyes locked onto his as she approached the window. Her hands slowly reached up and pressed against the glass. Her lips parted, and in a whisper that sent shivers down his spine, she said, "You shouldn't have stopped." Without a second thought, Mark floored the gas. His tires screeched as he sped away, leaving the woman standing in the middle of the road, her figure growing smaller in the rearview mirror. But even as he sped away, Mark couldn't shake the feeling that she was still watching him. When he glanced in the mirror again, she was gone. Hours later, he pulled into a gas station, shaken and needing a break. He told the clerk what he had seen, expecting to be laughed at, but instead, the clerk's face turned pale. "You're not the first one to see her," the man said in a hushed tone. "They say she's the ghost of a woman who died on that highway years ago. People stop to help her, and some, they never leave." Mark never took that route again. To this day, he can't explain what he saw, but he knows one thing for sure. Sometimes, the road holds more than just miles of asphalt. Sometimes, it holds the spirits of those who never made it home. Lena had always been cautious. She double-checked her locks, kept her curtains closed at night, and never took unnecessary risks. But no amount of caution could have prepared her for what happened one cold winter night. It had been an exhausting day at work, and Lena was looking forward to a quiet evening at home. After dinner, she curled up on the couch with a blanket and a movie. Outside, the wind howled, and snow began to fall heavily, covering the streets in a thick, white layer. By the time the movie ended, it was nearly midnight, and the storm had grown stronger. She decided it was time for bed. As she made her way to the bedroom, Lena paused by the window. Something felt off. The street outside was completely still, save for the swirling snow, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Shaking her head, she pulled the curtains closed and went to bed, trying to ignore the unsettling sensation. But in the middle of the night, Lena woke to a sound, a faint tapping. At first, she thought it was the wind rattling the window, but as she listened closer, she realized it was deliberate. It wasn't the wind. Someone, or something, was tapping on her window. Her heart pounded as she slowly turned to face the window, the curtains still drawn. Then, through the thin fabric, she saw it, a shadow, a human figure, standing just outside her second-floor window. Lena's blood ran cold. She lived on the second floor. There was no way anyone could reach her window without a ladder, and yet there was someone standing right outside, watching her. She didn't move. She didn't breathe. The tapping grew louder, more insistent. Slowly, with trembling hands, Lena reached for her phone and dialed 911. The operator answered, but before Lena could speak, a loud bang echoed through the room. The figure outside was now pounding on the glass, trying to get in. "Let me in," a voice whispered through the window, barely audible but clear enough to send chills down her spine. The police arrived within minutes, but by the time they got there, the man outside was gone. They searched the area and found footprints in the snow leading from the woods behind her building right up to her window. It was as if he had been watching her, waiting for the right moment. Lena moved out of that apartment the very next day. She never found out who the man was or how he had reached her window, but she knew one thing for sure. Sometimes, no matter how cautious you are, the real danger comes from the places you least expect.